So I'm going to do another little walk around the garden, see what the progress is on the plants, see how we're doing, and everything is looking pretty good actually. Now we've got a windy day today, another good reason for doing the video today, and another good reason for getting grasses, because there's not a lot of other plants that can really give you this look on a day like today, but this can. I've also got some sort of sound going on as well, but I don't think the camera really picks it up. I've tried to record it before, but it don't really do it on this one. So this is Calamagrostis acutiflora Carl Forster, a sterile hybrid, remember. Never going to cause you a problem. And it's almost at its ultimate height. I was hoping for a 7-footer this time. I think it's made it to 6.5, so not bad. Getting there. And I've planted it en masse, as you can see, and I love it. It is possibly one of my favourite grasses, as are many of them, as you know. So, as I say, it blows around a lot. Looks good. And it's looking brilliant. And these are the days I long for. And when we're up on the floating deck, which is just there, we get to look down on this, and it gives it an altogether different appearance, which I will go up there in a minute and show you. Oh, look at that. Isn't that just wonderful? I just love it. Now, this takes me back to when I was a kid. And I lived in a little village called Rothwell, which is in Lincolnshire, and it's not too far from where I live at the moment. I live in Binbrook, up on the Lincolnshire Wolds, and it's about 4 miles away, I would say. And it reminds me of those days as a kid when we all used to run through the barley fields, and they used to blow like this at this time of year, and they would be up on the valley sides, and it would be like you could watch the wind dancing through them, and it was lovely. And I think this reminds me entirely of those days. So there you go, look at that. That's just a sea of grass, absolutely beautiful. Now, once it goes through this phase, which is the open panicle phase, it will tighten up and then turn into a straw-coloured grass for the rest of the summer, into autumn, into winter. And actually, we've got one here at the moment that's done just that. I'll try and hold it still for you for the camera. That's what it's going to look like. So all of them are going to look like that. And it's been described as looking like a torch, candles on a dark evening. Lots of little torches, and so it does. It looks great. So we'll nip me up onto the floating deck. We'll continue to film because I need you to see the progress of other bits and bobs as well. So this is the floating deck I made during the winter when I was freezing cold, and I longed for days like now, this moment, when I would be able to sit up here and get that look. That breeze is blowing lovely. That's more of a wind. Don't forget, we're quite high up on the Lincolnshire Wolds here, so we do tend to get quite a lot of blowing winds up here. There you go. That's the look that the Calamagrostis gives us, as does other plants. This bamboo's moving around. That's fairly new in as well, remember. And then that one there, that's Persicaria polymorpha. I know it as, also known as alpina. Now the electrums are starting to come out in flower now. They've been little baubles to start with. In fact, let's get to this one. This is a bit closer for you to see. So they start out as these little baubles, and then they do open up into what I think is quite insignificant, to be honest. I quite like them while they're still in these little bubblegum phases. But then they open up with these tones of yellow. Some of them do like a little red tone, depending on the variety. This particular one is called Phyllictrum ellin. And it's a cracking plant from the word go in the spring. And it has this lovely look about its leaf. I really like this look. And that's more of a blue, greeny tone with the stems themselves having suffused purpley reds. Really, I would describe that as. And it's a great plant if you don't want to have too much maintenance on it. That's a good plant to get, and that'll remain fairly rigid through winter, and then in the spring you simply cut it down if it's not already blown down. So I'm about 3 foot up. So we'll just show you this. We're about 3 foot up because there's a wall here that's not so obvious on some of the videos. So I'm down at floor level now. I'm behind the cloister pergola here. And that's that little stained glass that I made many, many years ago in a previous life. And what I wanted to show you down here is this elder. And this is Sambucus, and it's one called Black Tower. And this is a cutting I took of it. And I've got 3 of these around the garden as cuttings. Gave one away, did 4. All 4 were very successful. And it's growing absolutely lovely. So give them a go, give them a try. Easy to do. If I was going to tell you to do it now, I would bring you to this one here, and I would say you would be able to take that to there, clip it off, and put it in as a cutting, and it'll strike and do well for you as well. So I mean, well, this used to be called the long border, this particular board, but it's now subdivided by the floating deck. And there you go. I think that's a perfect picture for one of the posh magazines. That look great, and it's looking good, and it's all about plant positioning. So there's a single specimen of Calamagrostis, Cal Forster, and again I'd say 6.5 feet definitely. I was hoping for 7, as I said, but it's looking like we're going to get 6.5 feet out of these this year. But who knows, in coming years it may make it to the magical 7 that I'm looking for. So the cloister pergola is looking really good. Looking great. Things are starting to grow up here. Remember, I've been putting roses onto this. This one is possibly one of my new favourites, although this has been in quite a while. And this one's Rosa Gertrude Jekyll. Gertrude Geekle, I was going to say. That's how I do it. That's how I name them, really. Waffling Anna. But anyway, there you go. So the cloister pergola is looking really good, and this is a clematis. And where are we? There we are. Right, let's try and get it into focus for you. So there you go. So this is a Viticelli type called Dark Eyes, and it is so much in flower this year. I'm very, very impressed with this one. This is the first of the clematises growing. I've had 2 others up here that have failed. This one seems to be doing all right. I do really like Viticellis. They're more of a late season plant, really, but this one seems to be a mid-season one. It's doing really, really well. Now I've not done anything to this other than give it this to climb up, and I've not touched any of them. It's found its own way up. That support at the back there, and it's looking great. So remember, over time, roses are going to cover this, and there's one there. There's a rose there, and there's also another one this side here. This one here is called Dublin Bay, and you can't see from me. I don't know why I'm showing you really, but it is more of a climber, whereas the other one is more of a rambler. And I wanted a rambler because we have a lot of surface to cover. And remember, I'm wanting this to feel more secluded. This cloister pergola needs to be covered in all that plant material up there. And I get to sit in here, and this is the view. So I'm currently sat down on one of these chairs, as you can see, and this is the view I get. So on windy days like today, I can just sit here and while away the hours. I sit with a cup of tea in my hands and just drink it in. It's beautiful. So I get to sit and plot things, really. I sometimes sit around here and I think, what can I do next? Now, you've got to be mindful that once you start building a garden, the plants you're putting in also have to be maintained. So there is a lot of that going on as well. So I try to do a lot of my stuff towards autumn, winter. And I have currently stopped doing the projects I've got. I've got 2 projects on the go. One will be this one here, to put in the path there. And that is going to happen. Just bear with me. I wish I'd done it earlier in spring because it would look absolutely superb. But I haven't, so we'll not mither about that one. So the planting is done with sitting in here in mind, really. And that elder, that's Sambucus Black Tower. That's the parent plant of the little one I've just shown you. It's looking superb. And we have several other plants in here. There's a cow drinker there. You know I like to collect this sort of thing. I collect the wacky and unloved and create planting pockets. Now this is a bamboo. This is called it's a Fargesia, and it's called Zizegu. I don't know if that's the correct way of saying it. I will put the name on screen so you can make your own decisions. This Brunera's doing well. Brunera's, they're doing very well in this garden, to be honest with you. I really do like them. They seem to like the soil. Now remember, I moved this plant. This one's called Cortaderia Patagonia, and it's a bluer green form of it. And the seed heads are coming up again now, and I think we're not going to have as many this year because I did remove it, split it, because I needed to move it from its original position. So I can see there's definitely 3 flowers going to set there, and they have almost a reddy, rusty look when they come up, and they really are nice. And it's one of the smaller types of pampas grass. It's not your huge, great Salawanas. It's not one of those. It's quite small, but it does make 4 to 5 foot clump in width. So you'd need to bear that in mind. Now I grow smaller plants, and this one's called Prunella grandiflora. And it's a really nice little clump former that I really do like. And I will put it on screen again. It's called Grus aus Iersen Hagen. Now I'm probably not saying that right. I think it's Dutch, I'm not sure. But I'll put it on the screen so you can make your own decisions. So this is a Cercium, and the normal Cercium now is going over. This one is only just about to come out. So this one's called Mount Etna, and it's always described as having a great start and a rubbish finish. But I like it nevertheless. It's spikier than Cercium rivulare atroperperim, but this is still a Cercium, and this one is Mount Etna, as I said, produces this little pinkish topping, like a top hat, eventually. And they are very, very spiky, those little bits. But as I said, it has a poor finish, and last year it didn't look great, but I said I would give it a chance, let it do its thing and see what happens this year. And actually, it's looking good as a clump, so it's worth just having it as a clump. If it never flowered, I don't suppose it would matter. Now, as we're going around, I spotted that there's one's got damaged here. Don't know what's happened to that, but we'll not worry about that either. As you know, this is the wildlife area and the dip pools, and I've got a little film that I'm going to show you. I'll try and include it in this if I can put it in. And there's a tawny owl bathing in the right-hand pool there. So it's doing just what I wanted. I've not seen any hedgehogs yet, but the camera was positioned wrongly. So I've got to admit I haven't seen any hedgehogs, but I've seen a tawny owl bathing in there, and it was wonderful when I saw it. And that's why a camera comes in good at night time. So it really is looking good, this area now. Although it's blowing today, it's really quite warm and pleasant. But these are the days that I dread, really, because this is what can absolutely dry out your garden. Days like today. And I've got plants that require more moisture. That's Eupatorium skinny mini there. This one here, Eupatorium skinny mini. Just starting to set its flowers. Not as tall as most years because it's not had enough water. It will still carry on pushing up, maybe 6 inches, maybe a foot. Who knows? But it's doing all right. Now this, I feel like this is doing a bit too good, really. It's very early. You can see the bees like it. So it's great for pollinators. And it's now called Symphytrichum. And this one particular variety is called Marina Wolkonsky. And last year it outdid itself and flopped. This year it seems to be a bit smaller and it's holding its own. So it's looking really, really good. Quite happy with that this year. It's looking good. And I just love the colour of the flowers. You've got to catch them at the right time. Now if I come back to this plant about 7, 8 o'clock tonight, they will have closed up. Bizarrely, a lot of plants do that. So this is one of my other elders, and something has taken a fancy to that and he's chomping away at it with several things going on at the moment. We've got the dreaded Solomon seal sawfly going on, and that's probably what's nipping away at that. I'm not sure. There's definitely someone having it, but I don't know what. Another Brunera. This is a self-set seedling. I'm quite happy with this. I quite like it. It's very, very silvery. So that was a seedling. I believe it came off of, which one was it? I think it was Alexander's Great. Not 100% sure, but it's looking really nice. It's looking very promising, actually, as a seedling. Now this is Cynara cardunculus. Lots of people eat this. I don't bother. I grow it for its look, for its statuesque look, as you can see there. Unfortunately, this year, it seems to have got all... Well, I've seen a lot of this going around in other people's gardens. We've got a lot of black fly going on. And you can see the ants there. They're removing a secretion from it. So they're farming it. We call it farming. And the ants are farming the black fly because they like whatever it is they're excreting. So they look after them, which is a nightmare. But live and let live. There's another good pollinator for you. This is Cephalaria gigantea. Good one for the bees because the bees can land happily on that. Now it's Cephalaria gigantea. What's it made? Foot. Ridiculous. But it'll do better next year. I really do like this plant. This is Crocosmia and was here when we got here at Grassy Bottom. Remember, everything that you see in at Grassy Bottom, built or growing, is I've put it in or built it. Everything except the most mature trees are the only things that was here originally. So the borders have all been dug by little old me. So I like these at this stage, and I know this is a seedling from Lucifer, and Lucifer seeds pretty true, to be honest with you. Now it's not fully out yet at the minute, but when we first moved here, along the long border, which is in front of the house that side, or the bungalow, it was full of them. It was absolutely full of them, and the bees never stopped coming to visit them. And it really is a nice plant. So I've dotted it around because I like it, and I like this sword-like leaf that it has. Very reminiscent of grasses, of panicums actually, very panicum-like. So it's doing well. Now this is Allium Globemaster, and I've shown it a few times. This is the phase it's at. We're now July the 1st, and that's what it's looking like. And I equally like that as well. We have to be careful with alliums because they can seed everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. So this is Elianthus, and I told you that this would need a little bit of support because it does outdo itself. Now in most years this will make 7, 8, 9 foot. It made 9 foot for me last year, and I don't think it's going to achieve that this year because we've had such a dry summer. But I've still given it some sort of a plant sport, which is this, and I've left some out just to show you, for the purpose of these videos, what it can do, and it can flop a bit. It's not very strong this year, and that's down to the fact it's not had enough moisture. And if you remember, I often tell you to water that one. Because if you can water it early on, it will thicken up quite quickly, grow quite tall, and be less likely to flop. So that's hydrangea at the front there. Quercifolia. It's flowering actually, it's starting to flower already, which I'm quite surprised by. I'm not used to seeing it flower quite this early, and I suspect again the dryness in the weather has had something to do with that. The acer isn't suffering. As I've told you, if you get the acers in the right place, make sure they're not drying out too much, they'll always look that good. It is always down to you. So that's Trompenborg, Acer Trompenborg, a real good variety that I'm hoping will make 9 foot for me, and it'll change this appearance over time here. So these paths always lead somewhere, as I said. If you're going to put a path in, make sure it leads somewhere or takes you on a journey. And so that one does. So I'm sat on the decking now, and this is the view I get from the decking. I absolutely love it. That Philadelphus, the white flowered shrub there, is outdoing itself really. I've got to do A little bit of constructive pruning, I'll call it. I need to sort that out because it's just a bit of a nightmare at the moment. But I will sort that one out. Okay, I'm going to call it a day on that one, and I'm going to do a part 2 of this particular video, a little walkthrough in July. So look out for the next upload. I'll talk to you on the next one. Ta-da!